A strange visitor in the night, the wind howled outside the small human outpost on the distant planet Illyris. It was a cold and quiet night, and the stars above shone like distant fires in the sky. Inside the maintenance shed, a human engineer worked alone, tightening a loose pipe. His name was not important, for he was just an ordinary man on a lonely outpost, far from Earth. But that night, something extraordinary was about to happen. Suddenly, he heard a soft sound behind him. It was not the wind, nor the creak of metal. It was a voice, weak and trembling. "Please, please help me," the voice said, almost like a whisper. He turned quickly, his tool falling from his hand. In front of him stood a woman, but she was not human. Her skin was pale blue, glowing faintly under the dim lights. Her large eyes were full of fear, and her dark hair fell over her shoulders in tangled strands. She wore torn clothes, and her body trembled as if she had traveled a long, hard road. She took a step forward and then fell to her knees. "My body is the only currency I have. Please be gentle," she begged, lowering her head. The human stared at her in shock. He had heard stories of alien women in trouble, but never had he imagined one would appear before him like this. His first instinct was to help her, but questions flooded his mind. Who was she? How did she get past security? What danger was she running from? Before he could speak, loud alarms echoed through the outpost. Red lights flashed, and a warning voice spoke over the loudspeakers. "Alert! Unknown intruder detected. Lockdown in progress." His heart raced. Guards would come soon if they found her here. They would take her away, maybe even hurt her. Something inside him told him that this woman was in terrible danger. The alien woman lifted her head, and her eyes met his. There was sadness in them, but also hope. She had risked everything to reach him, even though he didn't understand why. He knew he couldn't abandon her. "Get up," he whispered, grabbing her hand and helping her to her feet. "Come with me, quickly." He led her out of the maintenance shed and down a dark corridor. The sound of boots echoed in the distance as security teams searched the outpost. They had only moments before they would be caught. The human knew of a hidden passage, an old storage shaft that hadn't been used in years. He pulled open the heavy hatch and guided the alien woman inside. It was cramped and dusty, but safe. At least for now, as they crawled through the narrow tunnel. The human's mind raced. Why did she say her body was her only currency? Was she a fugitive, a refugee, or a spy? The woman seemed exhausted, but she kept moving. Her hands trembled and her breathing was shallow, yet there was something graceful about her. Even in this terrible moment, her blue skin glowed softly in the darkness, lighting the way ahead. They finally reached a small chamber where they could rest. The human sat down beside her, still unsure what to say. "Who are you?" he asked gently. "Why did you come here?" She hesitated, then spoke. "My name is not important, but I ran from a cruel master, a warlord who took everything from me and my people." Her voice cracked as she spoke. "I have nothing left, nothing to offer but myself. I didn't know where else to go." Tears filled her large eyes as she looked at him. "I just wanted someone to help me, someone to be kind." The human felt a deep sadness as he listened. Her words were simple, but they carried the weight of terrible pain. He knew then that she wasn't lying. She truly had nothing, and she had come to him because she had no other hope. Outside, he could still hear the search teams moving through the outpost. They would not stop until they found her. But in that moment, the human made a decision. He would protect this alien woman, no matter the risk. He reached out and gently placed a blanket over her shoulders. "You are safe here. For now," he said softly. "I won't let them take you." The alien woman looked at him with wide eyes. For the first time, a faint smile appeared on her lips. In that small hidden room, surrounded by darkness and fear, a fragile bond was formed. It was the beginning of something that would change both their lives forever. But even as they sat there, danger was closing in. The shadows outside were moving. The human knew that this was just the start of a long and dangerous journey. He would need courage, strength, and trust, because protecting this strange visitor would not be easy. And so, the night continued. Filled with quiet fear and growing suspense, neither the human nor the alien woman could guess what awaited them. Next, the escape plan. The cold air in the hidden chamber was heavy. The alien woman sat close to the human, her eyes still full of fear but now mixed with curiosity. She had never met a human who would risk so much for a stranger. The human engineer could still hear the guards' voices above. Searching every corner of the outpost, he knew it was only a matter of time before they found this old tunnel. He had to think fast. They couldn't stay hidden forever. He leaned closer to the alien woman and whispered, "We need a plan. You can't stay here. They'll find us." She nodded slowly, her blue fingers brushing the wall beside her. Suddenly, glowing lines appeared on the stone. Strange symbols lit up where she touched it. The human's eyes widened. "What is that?" he asked. I don't know," she whispered, surprised. "This wall. It reacts to me. It must be old technology from my people." The wall shimmered and a hidden door slid open with a soft hum. Behind it, a dark passage sloped downward into the unknown. The humans stared at the opening, realizing this might be their only chance to escape. He grabbed his toolkit and flashlight and looked at her. "Let's go. We don't have time." They stepped into the dark passage. Leaving behind the safety of the hidden room, the tunnel smelled of old stone and damp air. It felt ancient, untouched for many years. As they walked deeper, the human felt like they were walking straight into the past. The alien woman moved carefully, but seemed to know which way to turn. It was as if the walls were guiding her. The human followed closely, his flashlight flickering above them. Distant sounds of boots and radios reminded them that the search was still going on. Suddenly, the passage opened into a large underground chamber. In the middle of the room stood a strange device, glowing faintly. It looked like a console with symbols carved into it. The alien woman stepped forward, drawn to it. She placed her hand on the surface, and the console lit up brightly. The human watched in awe as a holographic map appeared above the console. It showed the entire outpost, including secret paths and old escape routes that no one had used in years. This was it, their way out. The alien woman pointed to a narrow tunnel on the map. "This leads to the docks. If we can reach it, we can steal a small ship and get away." The human felt hope for the first time that night, but there was a problem. "The tunnel looks unstable," he said, examining the map. "Part of it collapsed long ago." "Be dangerous." The alien woman's expression hardened. "I have no choice," she said firmly. "I can't go back. I would rather die than be taken by them again." The human admired her courage. He nodded. "Then we go together," he said. They began their journey through the escape tunnel. The path was rough and narrow, filled with old debris at one point. They had to crawl on their hands and knees through a collapsed section. The human used his tools to cut through metal beams, blocking the way. The alien woman helped as best she could, even though she was weak, as they worked. They shared quiet words. She told him about her people, once proud and free, now captured and sold by the warlord. She spoke of her village, her family, and how she had fled in a stolen transport that crashed near the outpost. The human listened carefully, feeling a growing respect for her. She was not just a frightened refugee, she was a survivor. Finally, after hours of struggle, they reached a section of the tunnel where the ceiling had almost completely caved in. It was too tight for them to squeeze through, but the human refused. To give up, he found a weak spot in the rubble and began clearing it slowly. Stone by stone, the alien woman helped, her glowing hands lighting their work. Time was running out. The search teams were getting closer, and sensors in the tunnel walls began to flash red. "Movement detected," said a robotic voice from an old speaker above them. The human worked faster, sweat dripping down his face. The alien woman whispered a quiet prayer in her language. Finally, with one last push, they cleared enough space to crawl through. As they slipped into the next part of the tunnel, the wall behind them collapsed completely, sealing off the way. They had come, they were safe for now. They sat down to catch their breath. The human looked at her and smiled slightly. "We made it this far," he said. The alien woman nodded, her expression softening. "Yes. But we still have far to go, deep underground." Lost in ancient tunnels and running from danger, they had formed a fragile team. And even though the path ahead was dark, they now had hope. Little did they know, their journey together would only become more dangerous, and their bond would be tested in ways neither of them could imagine. Trapped below, the tunnel behind them had collapsed completely. Dust hung thick in the air, making it hard to breathe. The alien woman sat on the cold stone floor, her back against the rough wall. The human sat across from her, wiping sweat from his face. Their escape route was gone. Now they were truly trapped below. The walls were covered with strange symbols, old, glowing slightly. The alien woman reached out and touched them gently. "These are from my ancestors," she whispered. "They lived here long ago." Before the warlords came, the human listened quietly, even trapped underground. He couldn't help but feel fascinated. It was as if they had stumbled into a secret history no one else knew. The alien woman stood and moved to a large stone door. On the far side of the chamber, it looked solid and heavy, but when she placed her hand on it, the symbols on the door began to shine. The door slowly slid open, revealing a hidden chamber beyond. Inside, the room was full of strange machines, ancient consoles, glowing crystals, and devices that hummed softly as if they had been waiting for centuries. At the center was a large stone table with a smooth surface. On it was a map, not just of the tunnels, but of the entire planet. The alien woman stepped forward and ran her fingers across the table. The map lit up and shifted, showing moving dots and glowing lines. "This is an old control room," she said softly. "My people must have used this place to travel safely underground." The human walked closer and studied the map. There was a tunnel that seemed to lead far beneath the outpost and out to the open desert. It was their best chance, but there was one problem. A section of the tunnel was marked in red. "Collapsed and dangerous, we have no other choice," the human said quietly. "If we stay here, they'll eventually find us." The alien woman nodded. She placed her hand on another console, and the ancient machines hummed louder. A small compartment opened, revealing a strange metal sphere. She picked it up and looked at the human. "This is a key. Or maybe a weapon. I'm not sure, but my ancestors left it here for a reason." The human felt a chill. It seemed that this journey was more than just an escape. It was becoming a mission tied to her lost people's past. Together, they stepped into the next tunnel, guided by the glowing symbols on the walls. But the way was rough and dangerous. At one point, the ground beneath them cracked and they nearly fell into a deep pit. The human pulled the alien woman back just in time, their hands clasping tightly. They rested for a moment in a small alcove, sharing water and quiet words. The alien woman told him about her village before it was taken: green fields, soft winds, and skies filled with singing birds. The human listened, feeling her pain and sorrow. Even in this dark place, her memories seemed bright and beautiful. He promised himself again that he would help her escape, no matter the cost. As they moved forward, they entered a strange area filled with crystal pillars. The crystals glowed when the alien woman walked past them, lighting their way. But as they reached the center of the chamber, they heard a sound, a deep rumble. The ground shook slightly, and then a stone wall slid shut behind them, sealing them in. They were trapped. Again, this time in a room full of ancient energy. At the center stood a tall stone figure, a statue of one of her ancestors. In its hands, it held a strange box covered in symbols. The alien woman approached carefully, her fingers tracing the carvings. Suddenly, the statue's eyes glowed bright blue, and a voice filled the room. It spoke in her language, but she translated. Quickly for the human, it says, "Only the true daughter of this world may pass. I must prove who I am." The human watched closely as she placed the metal sphere into a slot on the statue's chest. The glowing light around them pulsed, then dimmed. The box opened, revealing a small crystal inside. The alien woman picked it up carefully, feeling its power. "This is what I was meant to find," she whispered. "With this, we can escape, and maybe even free my people." The stone door ahead of them slowly slid open, revealing another tunnel. The human smiled at her. "You did it," he said softly. But before they could move forward, the walls around them shook again. The enemy had discovered the entrance to the tunnels. They were coming, fast. Their time was running out, but now they had a chance, and something much more important than before. They had found not just an escape route, but a purpose, together. They stepped into the next passage, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. Enemies close. In the tunnel ahead was dark and narrow. The human led the way with his flashlight, while the alien woman followed closely, cradling the crystal they had just recovered. But even as they moved deeper, a faint vibration in the walls made the human pause. The enemy was close. The outpost guards had found a way into the underground tunnels. Their heavy boots echoed behind them, growing louder with every passing minute. The alien woman placed her glowing hand on the wall again. Symbols lit up, guiding them to a sharp turn. "This way," she whispered. Her voice was calm, but inside she felt fear, not fear for herself, but fear that their journey might end before they reached the surface. Suddenly, they reached a vast underground hall. It looked nothing like the rough tunnels they had traveled through. The walls were smooth and polished, reflecting the faint glow of the crystal in her hands. Ancient carvings of stars, moons, and strange creatures covered every surface. In the center stood a tall platform with a glowing arch, a portal of some kind. The human looked at the alien woman. "Can this help us escape?" he asked. She studied the arch carefully. "I think so." "But it needs power," she replied. She held the crystal close and felt it hum softly. Somehow, this ancient device was calling to her before she could activate it. The sound of footsteps filled the chamber. A squad of guards appeared at the far entrance, weapons raised. The human stepped protectively in front of the alien woman, his heart pounding, but they were outnumbered and cornered. Then something unexpected happened. The symbols on the walls began to glow brighter. The alien woman felt a surge of energy through her body as the crystal pulsed in her hands. The portal shimmered, and a soft wind began to blow through the hall. It was as if the entire room had come alive, responding to her presence. One of the guards shouted an order, but before they could fire, the alien woman stepped forward. She raised the crystal high and spoke in her ancient language. Her voice echoed powerfully in the hall. The walls answered, releasing a sudden wave of light that swept across the floor. The guards cried out as their weapons sparked and short-circuited. The human watched in awe as the alien woman's face glowed with determination. She turned to him quickly. "The portal is opening." "But it will not stay open long," she said urgently. He nodded, grabbing her hand. Together they ran toward the arch as the floor beneath them shook violently. A final burst of light flashed from the crystal, and the portal roared to life. A swirling window of blue and silver energy appeared. The human and alien woman jumped through just as the guards reached the platform. The last thing the human saw before the portal closed was the furious face of the outpost commander, shouting orders. When they landed on the other side, they found themselves in a cavern filled with strange, glowing plants. The air smelled fresh, unlike the stale tunnels behind them. Above them, a crack in the ceiling showed the night sky and freedom, but this was no ordinary place. The plants swayed gently, even though there was no wind. Their soft light created patterns on the walls that seemed to move and dance. The alien woman stepped forward, feeling the ground beneath her feet pulse gently with energy. This place. It's sacred, she whispered. It's where my ancestors first arrived on this planet. The human watched her carefully. He could see that she was changing. The frightened, desperate woman he had first met was gone. Now she stood tall, her eyes shining with purpose. She was becoming a leader, even as they rested. They could hear faint echoes from the tunnels behind them. The enemy was still searching. Their escape was not yet complete. But they had gained something important: knowledge, courage, and the crystal that could unlock even more ancient secrets. The alien woman turned to him with a determined smile. "Thank you for trusting me," she said softly. "We are not finished, but together we will win." The human nodded. He felt a deep bond between them now. He no longer saw her as a stranger or a refugee. She was his friend, and maybe more. Above them, the stars shone brighter than before. Their journey was far from over, but they had escaped the immediate danger. Now they would have to prepare for the next step, a daring plan to fight back and free her people from the warlord's control. In the quiet of the glowing cavern, the human and the alien woman stood side by side. Enemies were still close, but hope was closer. The hidden power of the glowing cavern felt peaceful, but the human knew danger was still near. The alien woman stood silently in the soft light, holding the crystal tightly. Her blue skin seemed to shimmer now, as if the energy of this ancient place was flowing into her. The human watched her carefully. She was changing, growing stronger, not just in body, but in spirit too. Suddenly, the crystal pulsed in her hand. Symbols on the cavern walls lit up one by one. The human could feel a vibration in the ground, like a heartbeat. The alien woman closed her eyes and whispered words in her language. When she opened her eyes, they glowed a bright silver. "This is the place my ancestors left for me," she said softly. "The power in this cavern is waiting for me to claim it." At that moment, the crystal floated out of her hand and hovered. In the air, a beam of light connected it to the wall. Ancient machines hidden in the stone walls began to wake up. Humming softly, a large round doorway appeared on one side of the cavern, sliding open smoothly. Behind it was not a tunnel, but a chamber filled with devices, tools, armor, weapons, all made for her people. Her eyes widened. "This is an armory," she whispered. "My ancestors built this to protect themselves. And now it is mine." The human stepped beside her. "Then we can fight back," he said firmly. The alien woman nodded, her fear replaced by determination. She picked up a slender metal staff from the armory. The staff lit up as soon as she touched it, its blue glow matching her skin. She held it with confidence, testing its weight. "This is a symbol of leadership for my people," she explained. "Whoever holds it has the right to lead and defend." The human helped her examine the weapons and tools in the chamber. Some were strange and ancient, but others looked surprisingly modern. Together, they selected what they could carry, small, powerful devices they could use if cornered again. But just as they finished gathering supplies, they heard a loud noise behind them. A large crack opened in the cavern ceiling, sending dust and rocks falling around them. Through the crack, they could see drones, small flying machines sent by the outpost commander. Their red eyes glowed as they scanned the cavern. "They found us," the human said quickly. The alien woman raised her staff, and the crystal floated back to her, landing gently in her palm. Without hesitation, she planted the staff in the ground. The crystal on top began to shine brightly, sending out waves of blue light. The drones froze in midair, their lights flickering one by one. They dropped to the ground, their systems shut down by the pulse from the staff. The human was amazed. "What did you do?" he asked. The alien woman smiled faintly. "This staff controls the energy of this world," she explained. "As long as I hold it, I can protect us, but only for a short time." The human understood that they needed to move fast, together. They ran through the armory chamber and followed another tunnel that led upward. The path was steep and narrow, but it seemed to climb toward the surface. As they climbed, the human noticed the alien woman's pace quicken. Her strength had returned. Her steps were sure and fast. It was as if the power of her ancestors was flowing through her veins. Finally, they reached a metal door, rusted but still strong. The alien woman touched the symbols carved into the frame, and the door slid open. Revealing the night sky, cool air rushed in and stars shone above them. They had made it outside, but they were not safe yet. In the distance, they could see ships rising from the outpost, searching the skies for them. The alien woman held up her staff and spoke quietly. "This is not the end," she said. "This is the beginning. I will free my people, and you will help me." The human nodded. He no longer felt like just an ordinary engineer. He felt like a part of something greater, a fight for freedom, for justice, for hope. As they stood together under the stars, a small ship hidden among the rocks powered up. It was one of the ancient vessels left by her ancestors, and it responded instantly to her command. They climbed aboard, the engines humming softly. With a final look at the planet below, they lifted off into the sky. But the warlord's forces were already moving. The next part of their journey would be even more dangerous. Yet, for the first time, the alien woman and the human felt strong. They had the crystal, the staff, the knowledge of her ancestors, and the bond they had built together. Whatever came next, they would face it side by side. The warlord's domain, the small ancient ship, moved silently through space. The human sat in the cockpit, checking the strange controls. Beside him, the alien woman stood tall, holding her glowing staff. Her silver eyes stared straight ahead at their destination, a massive black fortress floating in orbit around a dying red moon. This was the warlord's domain, dark, cold, and full of death. The fortress looked like a giant claw wrapped around the moon. Thousands of lights blinked on its surface, and warships floated nearby, ready to strike. The human felt his heart tighten. "How can we get close without being seen?" he asked quietly. The alien woman smiled gently. She placed her hand on a small, glowing panel. The ship responded instantly, shimmering for a moment before disappearing from view. "This ship has a cloaking field," she explained. "My ancestors were clever. They left many secrets hidden as they moved closer." She told the human stories of the warlord, how he had risen from a petty pirate to a cruel ruler, how he had captured her people and turned them into servants and soldiers, and how he had stolen ancient technology to grow his power. The human listened carefully. He realized this was not just a fight for her people, it was a fight for the freedom of many worlds. Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped softly. A patrol squad was moving near their position. Even cloaked, they couldn't afford to get too close. The alien woman took a deep breath and reached into a compartment in the wall. She pulled out a small silver disc and handed it to the human. "This is a key," she said. "Once inside the fortress, this will unlock the main power core. We must shut it down before we can free the captives." The human nodded. He admired her bravery more than ever. She had come so far from a frightened refugee to a leader willing to face her greatest enemy. They guided the small ship toward a hidden docking bay on the far side of the fortress. The bay doors opened silently, as if welcoming them inside, but the human felt uneasy. "It's too easy," he whispered. As they landed, they were greeted by darkness. No guards, no alarms. Just silence. The alien woman stepped off the ship first. Her staff glowing softly, the human followed closely, holding the silver disc tightly in his hand. 8. The hallways of the fortress were cold and made of black steel. Strange symbols glowed on the walls, symbols of conquest, power, and fear. As they moved deeper, hidden cameras followed them. In the control room high above, the warlord himself watched them with cold eyes. His face was cruel and scarred, and he smiled darkly. "They have come straight into my trap," he muttered. "All. This time she has carried the key, and now she delivers it to me." The human and alien woman reached the main hall. At the center stood a tall golden throne, empty. Around them, holograms flickered, showing images of battles, burning cities, and defeated armies. The alien woman stood tall, raising her staff. Her voice echoed through the hall. "I have come to end this," she declared. The walls answered her challenge. Doors slid open and soldiers rushed in from every side. The trap had been sprung. The human quickly handed her the silver disc. "It's a trap," he warned, but the alien woman's eyes glowed brighter than ever. She whispered a quiet chant, and the crystal atop her staff pulsed with power. With a wave of her hand, the soldiers froze in place, their weapons locking up, their armor glowed blue for a moment before shutting down completely. The warlord's stolen technology was reacting to the staff, rejecting his control. But before they could celebrate, the warlord's voice filled the chamber. It came from every speaker, deep and mocking. "You think this is over? You have only come this far because I allowed it," he said coldly. "I will take back what is mine, and then I will break both of you." A hidden platform at the far end of the hall rose slowly. On it stood the warlord himself, clad in dark armor, a heavy staff in his hand. His eyes burned with fury as he pointed his staff at them. The alien woman stood her ground, but the warlord's weapon glowed red, ancient power stolen and twisted. A duel was about to begin, a clash of two staffs, two legacies, and two destinies. The human knew this was the moment everything would be decided. He stepped beside her, ready to fight by her side. The alien woman lifted her staff high and spoke calmly. "This is the end of your rule, warlord," she said. And as she spoke, the ancient machines hidden deep inside the fortress began to wake. They recognized her as their true heir, not the warlord. The ground shook as power surged through the walls. The warlord's smile faded as he realized what was happening. This fortress no longer obeyed him. It was hers now. A new future of the chamber shook beneath their feet as the fortress itself began to reject the warlord's control. The alien woman stood tall, her staff glowing with ancient power. The human stood beside her, ready to protect her no matter the cost. Across the hall, the warlord's red weapon pulsed with dark energy. His voice echoed through the chamber. "You think you can defeat me with old machines and broken symbols?" He snarled, "I built this empire from nothing, and I will crush both of you." But as he spoke, the walls around them began to glow blue. The fortress was no longer his. The alien woman had awakened something deeper, not just weapons and machines, but the soul of her ancestors, the spirit of her people. Long hidden and waiting, had returned. The warlord charged, swinging his heavy staff toward her. But this time, the alien woman didn't step back. Instead, she raised her staff, and the two weapons clashed with a brilliant flash of light. The human shielded his eyes as energy surged between them. The chamber walls cracked, sparks flew, and symbols across the floor lit up. The warlord roared in anger. But the alien woman's voice rose above his, strong and clear. "Your time is over," she said. "You ruled through fear, but I will lead through hope with a final burst of light." Her staff sent a wave of blue energy through the warlord's weapon. His staff shattered in his hands, and the dark energy vanished. The warlord stumbled back, falling to his knees. For the first time, he looked afraid. The alien woman stepped forward, her silver eyes calm and steady. She did not strike him again. Instead, she lowered her staff and spoke softly. "This fortress belongs to my people now. Your rule ends here." The fortress itself seemed to answer. The walls hummed gently. The lights turned a soft blue. Doors opened around them, and the warlord's soldiers stepped out. Their weapons lowered. Many of them were her own people, taken long ago. Now freed from his control, they dropped their armor and bowed their heads to her. The human felt a deep sense of awe. He had watched her transform from a frightened refugee into a true leader. She turned to him and smiled warmly. "Thank you," she said softly. "You believed in me when no one else did. You helped me find my strength." Together, they walked toward the command platform. The alien woman placed the silver disc into the console, and the fortress systems shifted fully under her control. All prisoners were freed. Ships that had been used for war were deactivated. Her people stepped forward, one by one. Honoring her as their new leader, the warlord was taken away quietly, his power gone. But the alien woman did not celebrate with loud cheers or violence. She spoke calmly, too. Her people, promising a new future, a future of freedom, unity, and peace. The human stood beside her as she addressed them. Though he was from another world, they treated him as one of their own. He had proven himself not just as a protector, but as a true friend. Later that night, as the stars shone over the fortress, the alien woman and the human sat together on a balcony overlooking space. She held the staff in her lap. Its glow, soft and peaceful now. Her voice was quiet. "There is so much work to do," she said. "We must rebuild, heal, and remember who we are." The human nodded. "But you won't be alone," he said gently. "I'll stay and help, if you'll let me." She smiled. A real smile this time, warm, full of hope. "You will always be welcome," she said. "You helped me when I had nothing. Now we will build something together in the distance." Ships full of freed captives began their journey home. The fortress, once a place of fear, now became a place of hope. The stars above seemed brighter than before, and so the alien woman and the human began a new chapter. A story not of war and suffering, but of friendship, courage, and a shared future. The bond between them had saved her people and would guide both their worlds toward peace. Their journey was far from over, but this was the beginning of something beautiful, a new future written together under the same stars.